Well, it's a little bit late on Wednesday evening, but my love of my life, Evelyn, has been tenacious about trying to figure out what has changed in Facebook that caused me not to be able to get into my recording. And she has been playing with this, and she's got patience that is endless, just amazing, a phenomenal woman to be with in my life. And finally figured out how to get this done. And she said, hey, do you still want to record? And I said, well, it's Wednesday night. I'm not sure if anybody will be up at 10:30 in my Live with Tony audience, but let me give it a go, because I wanted to talk about this improving sleep. And I keep hearing people talk about they're not sleeping well and they're stressed and God, they're isolated, and it all adds up. It all comes together in our elements of cognitive fitness. And what we have to start realizing is, from the social isolation we feel, or the COVID lockdowns, and the fact that people are losing their patience with it and what they need to do to be safe, has to do with the stress that they have. And when they go to sleep, they don't sleep well, they're restless. And now we talk about, well, gee, what are some of the tips that you can have when trying to get a good night's rest? I don't think there's anybody that I come across that says, gee, I just don't want to sleep and I'm glad I'm not sleeping well. It's something that shows up in your day and the next day. If you're at work, you may be tired and making errors. If you're a school student, you may be not paying attention to your classes. If you're a hands-on worker, you might hurt yourself and create an injury for yourself or one of your peers. So sleep is one of those things. We realize that during our resting periods in deep sleep, we're actually purifying toxins, and they're even finding research that leads it to Alzheimer's and early signs of dementia from not getting sleep and purifying those toxins. So anyway, I subscribe to this Harvard medical report, and they talk about some of the things I'm sure most of you have heard, and have heard these ideas. But first of all, you want to have a place where you go to sleep, which is they call their sanctuary, and you want to control the noise levels to it. And it's an interesting perspective, because you talk noise levels, and I've read a number of things from how do you control the noise levels. Well, one of the things, you put what they call white noise, which is put a fan in. I know a lot of people that if they don't have a fan in their room, or it's something that's creating white noise, they can't go to sleep. It's too quiet. So white noise. People that have radios that make sounds of waves or streams or birds in the forest. Anything that kind of puts your mind into a meditative state of peace, that can help. So you want to control the noise levels as best as you can, but then substitute that possibly with white noise. Dim the lights, right? Well, obviously we want to dim lights. There is some lighting. They talk about the blue lights, don't have your blue lighting thing, and things of that sort. But what are the lights? And it's interesting, because we have a lot of night lights sometimes in rooms, in hotels especially, right? And you want to dim lights, but you got a night light that's supposed to help you get up in case you need to go to the restroom. That helps light up the room, which also helps keep you awake. And then we've got in our bedroom a box on the wall for the security system, and that lights. And so there are times when I notice that I want to go cover it, put something over it. So how do you make the room as dark as possible? Now, the next one is talking about temperature, right? And God, I know I'm one of these people that, I don't want to be freezing cold, but I like when I hit the sheets and it's cold, right? And so the temperature they recommend is in the 60s. And so when we get into the summer months, I find it tougher to go to sleep and stay and get that full night's rest. So we've got a whole bunch of different things. Now, we want to go to sleep. It's time. So what are some of the rituals? Well, I've already talked about music and the waves and things of that stuff. Many of the articles I've read talk about taking a warm bath. I am not one to go take a warm bath. As I just told you, I like to be cold. So if anything, I will sometimes in the summertime go take a cold shower. Now, I won't put it on freezing cold, but I will take a cold shower before I go to bed so that I lower my temperature. Do some mild stretches. I just sometimes will do my basic stretching and turning and loosen up my back and find so my body feels good. And then I will do a crossword puzzle. And I will not finish a crossword puzzle. I get these big ones, and I might do a fifth of it and have it for 5 nights. But just doing a crossword puzzle, sometimes I'm trying to write in an answer to a clue, and I'll just start to find myself dozing off, and I'll just quickly shut the light off, put my glasses and the crossword down on the night table, and off I go. The next one is a schedule. So keeping a regular schedule in terms of what time do you want to go to sleep, and keeping a schedule of when you go to sleep and when you wake up, and when you go to sleep and when you wake up. And now here comes the problem with that, is people who aren't been sleeping well, they get so tired at times, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, they're going to bed, but the problem is they're waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning. So even when I'm in those tired modes, that's when I'll get up and actually do a light stretching program in the evening, watching television, and making sure I stay up at least till 10 o'clock. If I go to bed any sooner than that, I'm waking up at some crazy time in the middle of the night, and then you just stress in terms of that. When do you nap, right? You get tired, and the next day, 3, 4 in the afternoon, if you happen to be home, working at home, you just say, I'm going to go collapse, and you go take a nap. The problem is they recommend you take naps 30 to 45 minutes, and if you've exhausted yourself from a few nights of poor sleep, a nap may be 90 minutes. Well, that's not going to be good then for that night's sleep. So how do you keep yourself awake? And these things are not easy. It's one thing to talk about these things, but it's another thing to address them and keep them out of your routine, or keep them in your routine so that you're not getting yourself. Of course, we know about caffeine. We don't want to be taking caffeine after a certain period of time, and some of us are much more sensitive to caffeine. I have a piece of chocolate after dinner. I guess that's got caffeine in it, but that doesn't cause me to not go to sleep. You don't want to be smoking the nicotine. If you're a smoker and you go out and have a smoke before you go to bed, the nicotine is going to do it. And then have a little bit of maybe a light walk, maybe you want to swim, but you don't want to get too vigorous with the exercise at night, because that just generates a whole bunch of adrenaline that starts running through your body, and go through that. And then, of course, what are you eating, and what time are you eating? I try to eat before 6 o'clock. I want to be done by 6:15 at the latest. And then if I'm going to snack, I snack at 8 o'clock so that I'm not going to bed. You don't want to go to bed with a heavy stomach, especially that might create some of the things that put some pressure on your stomach and cause you to stay more awake as you lay back in bed on your stomach. And you just read about these things that talk about having pillows and staying upright in case you have acid reflux and things of that sort. So there are a whole bunch of things we get in sleep. And now here comes, we get all these wonderful things, and we go to sleep, and we wake up. And the thing I tell people is, what's causing you to wake up? If your brain is running a story or an issue or concern that you have, what gets you to wake up? And kind of like, whoa, it's time for me to get out of bed, or I can't go back to sleep, and I'm last and toss and turn. 15 minutes of tossing and turning, it's time to get your butt out of bed. Just get out of bed. And what I tell people is, go find a piece of paper and something to write with. If you know how to mind map, I'll get up some nights and just mind map out all of the thoughts that are going on, things that are stressing me, my finances, my work, my business things, my family issues, client proposals. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that we will get up, and your family, maybe it's your kids going to school, and who's watching the kids tomorrow, what happens if somebody gets COVID. I mean, we have so many things going on in our lives today that are just causing us to stress when we're trying to get our sleep. And I just tell people, get up and write it all down. Get it all, and make yourself a checklist of, here are all the things going on in my life that are keeping me awake at night. And as fast as you can get those all written down, what I have found is your brain will then say, I now have it documented. I don't have to keep my brain engaged in it. And so when I get up and I write down everything that sometimes it takes me an hour to get everything off my brain and just on a piece of paper. but I now know it's there, so when I do want to go back to bed, I go right back to sleep, and I know when I wake up, at whatever time that would be, hopefully without the alarm going off, I know where it is, and I just go pick up the piece of paper and say, here are all the things I have to start putting in some action plans for. What's important to know about sleep is getting that deep 3 hours of sleep at the deepest level, because that's when we're enhancing our memories, we're building up new thought, thinking processes for creativity. Damn, you get up with a creative idea, that's a good time to get up and write something down, and write those down. Don't wake up with a creative idea, oh, I got a solution to this, and think, okay, now I can go back to sleep, because your brain's going to keep saying, you want to remember this, you want to remember this. And there are times when you get up in the morning and say, damn, I thought I had this great idea, but I forgot what it was. So you know what? Don't forget what it is. Again, write it up. And some of our greatest creative minds had notepads next to their beds. So I thought that, with all of the things that I'm talking with people about, and the stresses and the anxieties they have, and the difficulties we continue to have, and wondering whether to have a mask or not to have a mask, and when to go for a test and how to get a test, people are just having a hard time with sleeping, and I just thought I'd cover that in my broadcast this evening. So sorry it's so late. Hopefully those of you that listen to Live with Tony will pick this up on the YouTube, or pick it up in tomorrow's Let's Go Back and Look at Live with Tony. And again, I have to thank Evelyn for having the tenacity and patience to stay with this, to be able to get this done. If all goes well, Michael shall be back here for dinner, and guess what I'm going to have him do again on my Live with Tony come Friday evening. We have our next Memory Championship committee meeting then, and we'll see where we go by then. So have a good week, and we'll see you Friday.